Hi everyone, I'm going to take a look at the new captain's pack that was released last week with the eFootball 24 update. This is a nominating contract pack, so you can choose any player you want out of this pack. They're all 5 stars, so you'll need a 5-star nominating contract. I've got 10 players in here, so let's get into it. Have a look who we've got. I'm going to start with Samba. So Samba, he's a solid goalkeeper. He's 93 rated. He's not elite level. He could certainly do a job for you, but for those of us who've been playing a long time, we've got legendary keepers or higher rated keepers. He's probably not going to get into your team, but certainly he's not bad. And if you're new to the game, if you need goalkeeper options, it could be good for you. In terms of the way the points are auto allocated, I wouldn't do a great deal. I'd like to get his awareness up a bit if possible. I would maybe take, what would I take down? Maybe take 1 off reflexes. Take a bit off aerial as well. Take that right down actually. And then that frees up a couple more to go on awareness. Yeah, I'd prefer that. Couple more on awareness I think makes a difference. Awareness and reflexes are the 2 most important. But not a great deal of difference either way. He's a good keeper. He's not outstanding, but he's certainly a very decent keeper. So not a bad option to have if you need a goalkeeper. Next up, we've got a bunch of defenders. 1 centre back. That's Nacho. It's a pretty decent version of Nacho, to be honest. He can play at fullback, but I've played around with allocating his points. You can't make him a good fullback. You just can't give him enough pace and enough technical ability. So he's really, for me, he's only really good as a centre back. He does have a pretty good selection of skills, but I would like, I mean, with any centre back, I'd like them to have blocker, but also most importantly with this guy, he's only 180 centimeters. He doesn't have aerial superiority, so there is a weakness there. It's an obvious weakness with Nacho. He's going to get found out if you're up against a guy who's got tall, powerful strikers, especially if they're putting a lot of crosses into the box. So if that's the case, then you might, and if you plan to use this guy, you're going to want to try and put aerial superiority on him with some skill trainers. But outside of that, he is pretty solid. He's got good defensive attributes here. Down the right, his pace is okay. Physically, he's not brilliant. I wonder if we could maybe just tweak the way his points are allocated. If you take a couple off defending, he's still strong defensively. And then you got a couple you can put onto his physicals there. And it also leaves a couple of points left over. And that gets his speed up to 80. I think that's a better build personally. Still strong defensively there. Getting that speed up to 80. He's already got reasonable acceleration. Stamina's great for a centre back, by the way. And then his physicals just get a little bit higher. Physicals are important for a centre back, or getting into those physical duels, going into tackles with attacking players. So yeah, he's a fairly solid all-round centre back. Just like I say, with his height and the fact he doesn't have aerial superiority, just be mindful that he has a weakness in that area. And then onto the right backs, we've got a few. So first one, Reece James. So he's an attacking right back, very attacking right back. He does have interception, which is arguably the most important skill for a fullback to have. Fighting spirit's going to help as well, but that's about it defensively. Above that, all these other skills here, it's all attacking, and essentially it's going to make him good on the ball and very good with his crossing. He's got a really fantastic cross on him. You see here, with only 4 points put on him, his lofted pass goes up to 89. He has 82 curl at level 1 without any points on there. And his kicking power is tremendous. That starts at 80, and they've got it up to 92 with the auto allocation. So yeah, he can be deadly with his crossing, but with Reece James here, it's a question of, do you want to play him as a right back? Do you want to play him as a right midfielder? With the auto allocation, it's a fairly decent build. Obviously, excellent pace. The acceleration isn't brilliant though. Stamina fantastic. Defensively, the defensive awareness is the only one that's a real concern. 72 is not brilliant. So I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that personally. And they've already put 8. They increased his defending by 8, so that's 12 training points they've already allocated on there. After those 8, the next 4 increases are going to cost you 3 points each. So it's going to be difficult to get his defensives up without sacrificing somewhere else. You can't really sacrifice much down the left because on the ball he's already borderline for me. I like the technicals, especially ball control, to be 80 plus. So for me, he's not quite there. And then with the passing, sure, the crossing's brilliant, but keep in mind as well, the low pass isn't great at 77. So you don't really have a lot of wiggle room, to be honest. He is pretty solid as a right back there. I personally, I would maybe look at taking a little bit of that pace away. You don't need that much pace. You maybe just put 8, increase that by 8, so then his speed comes down to 85. Get a bit more in his acceleration. Keep in mind his balance isn't great, so you are going to notice that he could be a little bit awkward sometimes to maneuver him on and off the ball. And with 8 points still left, you can just put a couple more on passing and on dribbling. I think personally that's, in fact, you can take a few off aerial. He's already got good physical contact. Starts at 79, sorry, at level 1. That frees up 3 points. Stick them on defending. I think as a right back, if I'm playing him as a right back, that's probably what I'm going to do. His pace isn't brilliant, but it's still pretty decent. And he's got very good physical contact for a fullback. Stamina's still very good. Defensive is a bit better. And down that left-hand side, like I say, he's now a bit more comfortable on the ball. And still that crossing there is tremendous. But as I mentioned a minute ago, you can play him as a right midfielder, only bear in mind all the skills he's got here, especially based around the crossing. If you were to abandon the defensive training, you could go all in on his offensive attributes, and you could make him a very capable right midfielder. So there, good pace, physical contact is great for a right midfielder, stamina great, but then down the left, we've made him better on the ball now, and he's really focused on that passing. 93 for lofted pass, going with the pinpoint crossing, 82 curl, 88 kicking power. His crossing now is going to be outstanding, and if that's the kind of right midfielder you like, a sort of traditional right midfielder putting crosses in, could be really, really deadly. So yeah, it could be a very good card, that. And the next right back we've got Geertruida. I've probably said that wrong. Defensive fullback. That's his play style. So interesting one. He lacks skills. He's either a right back or a centre back. If you're playing as a right back, you're really going to want interception and probably blocker as well. Certainly for a defensive fullback. He does have some good skills there, but interception is crucial. Blocker is pretty important as well. If you want him to get forward and to be able to put crosses in, obviously pinpoint crossing would help, but his lofted pass isn't great, even with 4 increases on there, still only at 73, so I don't think pinpoint crossing is going to make too much difference. But I don't think a defensive fullback like this guy is someone you're going to really want to use in that way to be getting forward too much. So looking at the auto allocation, to be honest, as a defensive fullback who you're going to be using in that way, I think it's a pretty good build. He's got fantastic pace and good stamina, defensively pretty decent. Down the left is where it's a little bit concerning, but like I say, if you're going to use him defensively and you're not going to get him forward too much, that won't matter too much. If you were concerned with that, you could free up some points by taking a bit off his pace, which is excellent. Take four off there. It's still at 88 for speed. What else could we do? Nudge 1 off his dexterity. Take a few off the aerial. Put that right down, to be honest. 73 is still okay. You can stick 1 on defenses, get his defensive awareness into the green at 80. And then we've got 15 points left here. So how high can we get these? Pretty high, actually. I'll put 1 more in there. Yeah. So yeah, that would work. So if I was a bit concerned about how good he's going to be going forward, I would do that. So still good pace. Stamina's okay. I would keep an eye on that stamina, actually, 84. Maybe taking it down a little bit low. But the physical contact is still fine. Defensive, we've actually got that increased by 1. Now on the ball and with his passing, he's a lot more competent. So that's probably how I'd build him if I was going to play him as a right back personally, because I like my right backs to do more than just defend. But also as a centre back, if you're going to make use of the fact he can play centre back, to build him for that, you would get rid of all the offensive stuff and just start with the defensive attributes. So maybe put 12 on there, and on the aerials you could put 8. So you got 24 points spare. So maybe go up to 12 on the aerial, and then another couple on defending. He's already got good pace, to be honest. You don't need a great deal else. 4 points left. Stick another one on defending, why not? That's actually a fairly solid centre-back build. So there you see now he's got good defensive. Defensive engagement, the lowest at 83 is a bit iffy. But on the whole, it's decent. Good, very good pace for a centre-back. Physical is pretty decent for a centre-back. Stamina's okay. So you could actually make this guy a viable centre-back. But again, like I said when we first looked at this guy a couple of minutes ago, he does need more skills. For a right back, he needs 1 or 2, but for a centre back, if you're going to go with this build, you really need some more skills. You'd need interception, probably blocker, and you might want to put aerial superiority on him as well, make him stronger in the air. But yeah, either way, depending on the skills and how concerned you are with that, could be a decent centre back. Certainly could be a very solid right back. Then our next right back, Danilo, is another very good card actually. This might be the one that I pick up. I'm going to be using one of my contracts on this pack, and Danilo's probably the one I'm going to go for. He can play fullback or centre-back, and he's actually very capable of doing both. So initially we've got the auto allocation for fullback to play at right back. The pace is good. It's more speed than acceleration now. I'd like the acceleration to be a bit higher, but 87 is good for speed. The stamina is tremendous at 90. Physicals are okay. Defensive, that's good for a fullback. That's very good. And then down the left-hand side, similar to Geertruida just now, he's a little bit lacking here. So I'll be looking to maybe reallocate some training points to get him better technically. First place I'm looking is defensive, because I don't think your fullbacks need to be that high. If you're going to use him as a defensive fullback and not have him getting forward too much, you might leave it as it is. You might be okay with these technical attributes down the left-hand side, and that's up to you. Personally, I like my fullbacks to attack a bit more. So if I go down to defending here, take 4 off that, still with an increase of only 4 on there from level 1. He's got 80 for defensive awareness, so I think that's okay. And then if you go over here, put him straight onto his technicals, so he gets his ball control up to the 80 mark. His passing's a bit better as well. I'd probably just leave it around about there, to be honest. If I'm going to build this guy to play as a right back, the way I like my right backs to be, that's probably the way I would do it. In fact, I'd probably get rid of some of those aerials and give him some more dexterity. Now his acceleration gets up to 80. Yeah, that's what I'd do. As a right back, I think that's for me personally, that's how I'd build him to play right back. But as with Geertruida just now, you can play him centre back as well. So I'll quickly do a centre back build on him. So again, get rid of all this offensive stuff. You don't need that as a centre back. You put the defensives initially up to 12, aerial up to 12. See how that looks. Only 4 points left. That's around about what you need, to be honest. And then you got 4, put that on lower body. I would like to get his speed up to 80, to be honest. Yeah, there we go. And then 1 on dexterity to get his balance to 70 there. Yeah, as a centre back, I think that's what I'd do. Good defensives. Physical is okay, not brilliant, but it's decent. Good pace for a centre back. Very good stamina. Balance at 70 as well is quite nice for a centre back. And then down the left, as you'd expect for someone who's primarily a fullback, he's actually pretty decent technically for a centre back. So very viable as both a centre back and a right back for me. In the skill set down here, again, aerial superiority is the one you probably need if you're going to play him at centre back. And I think man marking and acrobatic clearance are probably two others that I'd look to maybe get on there. As a centre back, but as a right back, he might not be so bothered. I don't think it's quite so important at right back. He's already got interception and blocker, 2 very important skills to have, and then pinpoint crossing as well if you're getting forward with him. So yeah, he's a useful card. Like I say, I think for me personally, this is probably the card that I'll be picking up from this pack. It could be a good fullback or a good centre back. So yeah, I like the look of this one. And then another right back, we've got Sergi Roberto. I think a lot of people will look at this card and maybe just dismiss it straight away because he's not someone who's known to be a good player on this game, but I think he's potentially quite useful. He can play centre midfield or right midfield or right back, which is his registered position. If you look at the auto allocation, pace is okay. It's not brilliant. 86 is pretty good, but 76 acceleration kind of takes away from that a bit. So I'd say his pace on the whole is okay, but not brilliant. Stamina is outstanding, and 93 is brilliant. So yeah, and that's very useful to have, knowing your fullback's never going to get tired. Defensively, he's pretty decent. Down the left for a fullback, he's pretty decent. So his pace could be better, but outside of that, he's actually a pretty solid right back. But again, you've got to keep an eye on his skills. He does have blocker, which is a very valuable skill to have for a fullback, but he doesn't have interception. And I think that's probably, as I mentioned earlier, I would say it's the most important skill for a fullback to have. So I'll be looking to put interception on him if I'm going to use him as a right back. But you can use him in midfield. As I mentioned, he can be centre mid or right mid. If you're going to go for right mid, you could abandon all the defensives down here. Where would you go? I think passing, you probably put some more on there. And then maybe put the rest on dribbling. Yeah, that's probably what I'll do. If I'm going to use him as a right midfielder, like with Reece James, if I'm going to use him as a right midfielder, it's going to be to make the most of what he's good at. You've got to capitalise on what you've got. And he's got pinpoint crossing, most important. He has a winger. One-touch pass is going to come in very handy as well, and weighted pass is nice. But with pinpoint crossing, now getting his lofted pass up to 83, he's much better on the ball now. He's pretty tidy on the ball now, mid-80s and all his technicals there. Pretty reasonable pace. Pace isn't too important for a right midfielder, but he's quick enough. And then stamina is fantastic. So, yeah, he could be a viable right midfielder as well. It's interesting that. And then as a right midfielder, having all the defensive 70 plus and the blocker skill down there, that could come in quite handy, you know, especially if your opponent's got an attacking left back. You could counter that pretty well if you're playing right midfield. But then also, as a centre midfielder, that's another option. I would maybe take just a couple off his dribble in there. I don't think you would need all that pace playing in the middle, so I could take a few off there. And then, what else would we do? Probably put his defences back up again, to be honest. I'll give him a bit more physical contact. What else do we do here? Maybe it's that. Yeah, I'd probably do something like that, to be honest. And again, pretty useful. So tidy on the ball, good passing. Defensively, that's pretty decent for a centre midfielder. And remember, he's got that blocker skill, which will come in handy. The pace for a centre midfielder is okay. We've taken a bit off, but centre of the pitch is not too important. And then stamina is great. So yeah, I don't think in any position this guy is going to be outstanding for anyone, but he could be pretty useful, and he could especially be useful if you did a kind of all-round build. Just made him decent in every area. Having him on your bench, centre mid, and right back, he could be a very useful player to bring in second half of the game. So yeah, by no means the best card in this pack, but I think this is a pretty useful one, so don't sleep on this guy. And now I move on to the midfielders, and we got Oyarzabal from Sociedad. I had a previous version of this guy. I had this one. It was a nominating pack quite a while ago now. It's tempting, this guy. As I mentioned earlier, I'm tempted by Danilo, but I think this guy is, if I don't get Danilo, I might get this guy. He's very good. The one that I've got, I've used quite a bit. I don't think there's a great deal you'd want to do with the way they've allocated the points, to be honest. Putting 8 on each of these, remember that it's in multiples of 4, so the first 4 are 1 point each, the next 4 2 points each. So if you wanted to try and increase any of these, it would become a bit less efficient because you'd be spending 3 points per increase. So yeah, I think the way these attributes look to me, that's about right. You know, he's got a fantastic set of skills down here: long range shooting, one-touch pass, through passing, pinpoint crossing. You can play him attacking mid, you can play him wide left, you can play him wide right and cutting inside. You can play him SS, you can play him as a striker. He's actually very well suited to all of those positions with this one build here. You know, he's great on the ball, he's got good passing. His pace isn't brilliant, but it's good enough. Good stamina, the balance is good. But also, notice that offensive awareness, 85, that's good. That's not just good for an attacking midfielder, but if you played him as a striker, which you can, and I've done that with the version that I've got, 85 offensive awareness is good in that position. I think in that position, the only thing you'd want to do is maybe put first time shot on his skill set. If you could add that skill, then he'd be a very good striker. So yeah, again, like with Sergi Roberto, he's a guy who can play multiple positions, could be very useful, but I don't think he's just a utility man who could kind of fill in. I think he could potentially be a very good player for a lot of people. And like I say, the version I've got, which goes to a similar level to this one, has been really good for me. I like it a lot. So yeah, I think it's a very good card and very useful in multiple positions. And next we have yet another Bruno Fernandes. And this time it's a whole player. What do we say about this? I mean, he can only play through the middle, centre mid or attacking mid. I don't think you're going to play him as a centre mid. He's not strong enough defensively. You can see here defensively he's very weak. So he's very much an attacking midfielder with the whole player playing style. He doesn't have great pace. You could maybe take some points away from elsewhere. Maybe take them away from his technicals. If you were to take a couple off there, maybe stick all that on his lower body. Maybe a bit quicker, but I don't think it's going to make a huge amount of difference. He is good technically on the ball, offensive awareness, like with Oyarzabal just now, very good. Passing is fantastic, as you would expect. Good from set pieces. Good stamina as well. For an attacking midfielder with a whole player playing style, that stamina is something worth keeping in mind, because whole players, and especially attacking midfielders, will run around and wear themselves out. So he's got very good stamina. And as you would expect, the skill set, the shooting, the passing, he's got end product for days. So yeah, if you're a fan of this guy, it could be a really good card for you to get. But there's nothing majorly different to most of the Bruno cards we've had. Then we have Bergwijn from Ajax. He's down as a left winger, can play on the right as well. Unfortunately, he doesn't have pinpoint crossing, which he has previously had. They took that away 1 or 2 updates ago. So it's frustrating that, because he could actually play as an attacking midfielder before, but now he can only play out wide and he doesn't have crossing, which is a bit frustrating. So without the crossing, I think personally wide left is where you're going to want to play him, because he does have long range drive. So he's cutting in from the left hand side onto his stronger right foot. Long range drive, very useful skill to have. He's got soul control. He'll be pretty good on the ball. Obviously dribbling up there 90 is fantastic. Rising shots and long range shooting to go alongside long range drives. So he'll score goals for you. Finishing might not be brilliant, but it's not too bad. And then through passing as well, just throwing it into the mix. So he's got a bit of end product, Bergwijn. Personally, I think looking at how many points have been allocated in different areas, I think you don't need that much on his dribbling. You could take a couple off there. That frees up 6 points. Personally, I would put them all. You could either put them all on passing if you're gonna want to try and focus on creating chances, or you could put them on shooting. Like I say, his skill set probably favours shooting, although he does have through passing. It depends how you want to play it, really. You could even take a little bit away from his pace, because he's already very quick. If you take his acceleration down, bear in mind his offensive awareness will go below 80, which is decent. So, yeah, he's an interesting one. He's not an elite level player. Like I say, with the passing and finishing, neither of them are particularly bad, but they're not particularly great either. He is good on the ball. He does have excellent pace. The balance is brilliant. Offensive awareness. So, yeah. Again, it's one of these cards. It's not an elite card by any means, but he's pretty handy. So he could come in. Could be useful for some people. And then lastly, another Lautaro Martinez card. It's not the best version we've had of him, but it's by no means a bad card. It's pretty much what you'd expect from him. He's a goal poacher. He's a bit of an all-rounder of a striker. The offensive awareness and finishing, as you'd expect, they stand out, along with the acceleration. It would be nice if his technicals were getting up to the 80 mark. They're not far off, though. The speed at 77 kind of bugs me a bit. I'd like that to get to the 80 mark. For a small technical striker, you like a bit more speed on him. I'm not sure where you take points away from, though. If you took it away from his dexterity, his acceleration dips a bit, and any lower beyond that, his offensive awareness goes below the 90 mark as well. It's nice to hit that 90 mark, but just for the sake of experimenting, if we did that, you could then get his speed up to 80, and then we've got 3 points left, and we could put that on dribbling. There's another 1 left over, put it on his passing. You could maybe do that. Maybe he's a bit more of an all-round build. As I say, the pace, a bit better now, which is decent. He's very nimble. He's always been pretty maneuverable. Doesn't look like he's that great on the ball, but he feels nice. He's one of these players who feels nice on the ball. But like I say, the offensive awareness and the finishing, very important. The most important ones really for a striker. And he's actually deceptively decent in the air. I think some people might write him off. He's about sort of 5'8", 5'9", something like that. But don't write him off when it comes to crosses, because he might not be the biggest guy in the world, but he can get his head on the ball, and his heading's always been good for me. So he's tidy from crosses as well as on the ground and getting in behind defenses. And when you look at the skill set down here, heading, long range shooting, obviously first time shot, acrobatic finishing, which goes, will help from crosses. He's pretty tidy. He's a pretty tidy, neat little striker. Good all rounder. So yeah, a pretty good solid Lautaro card. So there you go. It's a pretty decent selection of of cards, to be honest. You've got 10 in there, as I said earlier, all 5 stars, so you just need a 5-star nominating contract. You can pick anyone you want. I personally like the look of Danilo and Oyarzabal. I think those two are probably the two that jump out the most to me, but there's some other decent ones in there. So, yeah, hopefully you found it useful. Thank you for watching as always. I'll see you next time.